Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the next part in my collection and declutter series. Let's get started. Okay, I've zoomed us in because like we might as well stay zoomed in, right? So I have a huge basket next to me. I pulled this all off of one rack, which tells you a lot because the rack should really only hold like 18-ish decks. Anyways, we have a lot of decks to go through. If you're new to this series, this was inspired by Danny of Danny Mystic, who did the Tarot Collection and Declutter series first. I'm totally copycatting because I loved it. It was super fun. I'm going through all of the decks in my collection, but in absolutely no planned order. So sometimes we'll have tarot, sometimes we'll have oracle, and I'm pretty much doing it by taking a whole rack. I hang my decks on my wall on these like wall racks with hooks. So I take an entire rack worth of decks down and we talk about it. And then as I'm talking about them, we'll decide if anything, you know, should go or go into purgatory or whatever. So that's what we're doing. So there may be some decluttering. There's definitely going to be showing a lot of decks, some in print, some out of print. I'm not getting rid of any of these right now. Even if I say it's going to go somewhere to be dealt with later. So I'm not in a position to be able to rehome anything right this minute. Just keep that in mind. And with that said, let's jump into it. Okay, first thing in the pile in this delightful panty bag. All of my bags, by the way, are made by my wife, Peggy, who has an Etsy shop. It is sparkscreations.etsy.com. There's a link in the link tree, which is down below. This is my favorite Sexy Times deck. It's going nowhere. This is the Erotic Tarot Intimate Intuition. It's a pip deck, but it's very inclusive. It's really fun. I love the artwork. It's a little naughty, so like feel free to look away. But it's just really classy naughty, if that makes any sense. I love the pips. I think it works really well for this type of deck, but it definitely has a wonderful guidebook that ties in Sexy Times meanings, which I really appreciate. It's got people of all types, genders, bodies. It's just wonderful. It's just wonderful. So I really, really like it. I've never found another sort of intimate or Sexy Times deck that I feel like is this open and this diverse. And that's exactly what I want in a Sexy Times deck. So I don't use it a ton, but I love having it for questions for myself. I don't think I'd pull this for clients, but maybe. I mean, in the right situation, perhaps. But typically, I use this just for myself, and I really enjoy having it in my collection. It fits the bill. It sort of scratches the itch for having a deck like this. It keeps me from being tempted by other ones that I know wouldn't really work for me, and I love it. So I do believe I have a full walkthrough, but maybe not. It is a little naughty. YouTube might not like that, but that is definitely safe in my collection. I need to start a safe pile somewhere. Okay, there we go. That's a good safe pile. This is also very safe. This is the Everyday Witch Tarot, and mine has seen so much use. I absolutely love it. It's fantastic. It's modern witches meets medieval witches in fun striped stockings and pointy hats and flying on broomsticks, and it's amazing. It's just a really fun witchy deck, but also the author of the guidebook, Deborah Blake, and the one who collaborated with Elizabeth Alba, who did the artwork. It's just so relatable. It's very much written in a conversational tone. It's very easy to understand. There's great distillation of the keywords and their messages in the guidebook. It's really wonderful and definitely not to be overlooked. I think this is a really special deck and kind of going to be, I think, a modern classic. Even though I think a lot of people get a little thrown by the mixed up time periods and there's a little mix of modern and medieval together. I think that throws people a little bit. I think that the silliness of the striped stockings and the pointy hats also throws people, but I love that about this. It's its charm, right? So love this deck, super big fan. I also have a little tiny mini of this deck that often lives in my purse. So very safe. Next up, we have the Everyday Witch Oracle, which is currently hanging on the rack with the Everyday Witch Tarot. They're just staying together because, of course, they are a perfect pair. I need probably a better bag match for this deck, but this, I held off on this for a long time, and I recently got it. I think this is maybe even still in order. I'm not sure. I just recently got it, and I am obsessed. I really like it. That's what the backings look like. It's very glossy. But of course, it's the same world and the same characters, and I just really love it. I was actually nudged to finally purchase this when I saw that Elizabeth and Deborah are working together on one new oracle. They're working together on a new oracle. It's the Everyday Witch Familiars Oracle, which I think will make a really fun addition to this set. And I love the idea of being able to read with it in its family. And they're also now working on a new tarot deck together, which is very exciting. But I just love these big, beautiful borderless illustrations. It's gorgeous. I think one of the issues with this is that the guidebook may not be all that easy to navigate, but I could be wrong. I just remember there being something about the system or the book that was tricky for people, but I absolutely love and I'm obsessed with this artwork, and I think it pairs really nicely, obviously, with the Everyday Witch Tarot. I definitely slept on this, and I am glad I finally have it. So this isn't going anywhere, but this is currently living on the rack with it, with the tarot, so that I remember that they are meant to be read together. Well, not meant to be, but they can be, you know. You know how it be. Okay, let's talk about another one that is... Okay, so I have dilemmas about this. This is the Moonchild Tarot, but I have currently in here the Shadow Work edition. Let me get my other copy. Okay, I have like a storage shelf, and yes, I will share all the decks that are living there. I don't want to get rid of my original Moonchild. I think I do prefer the Shadow Work edition, but the colors, the vibe of the decks just feel very different. As far as I can tell, the guidebooks are the same. So the Shadow edition is just a different coloration, but there's also some updated artwork. So here's the thing. The original has this very warm toned look to it. Lots of gold, right? It's the vibe the backs give you. The new newer Shadow Work edition is definitely more my style in terms of coloration, and it's more cool toned. It's still got those warm golden tones here and there, but it's definitely been slanted more cool toned overall. And I really like that. I also really enjoy the updates to the artwork. So I think this is my Moonchild Tarot. But in fairness, I don't actually reach for this deck a ton. It is safe though. Look at these edges of that like beautiful dusty purple. So pretty. Seek the Unseen. I think this one is definitely the one that needs to stay out and about. I can put this back in storage, but I do have a fondness for this because it was the original. The box lid is kind of loose. I will say nothing can quite match the beautiful texture on the original Moonchild box. It's just a whole different vibe, but very, very beautiful. So I do love this. This is safe. I think my problem is I continue to think about this deck almost like it's an oracle deck and not like a tarot. I don't know. So, but it's safe. It's just one that I don't reach for a ton anymore, but I don't see myself wanting to let it go. Here's another longtime favorite, the Textured Tarot. Oh my gosh, I love this deck. I hate the cardstock, but I love this deck. The Textured Tarot is by Lisa McLaughlin, and the cardstock is, I think, meant to be like I think it's a recyclable cardstock, but it is a Xanta box board, and it feels like cereal box to me, like cardboard. It doesn't feel like cardstock. I love this deck. I love the textures. I love how easy it is to read. I've just really always been such a huge fan of this deck. It often ends up hanging on my favorites rack because it's a great client reader for me. I just freaking hate that I can't shuffle it. If this came out in like a linen cardstock, I would die. I would love it so much. But I love this first. I'm very bonded to this edition too. It's one of the first decks that I edged, and I was so pleased with this gray color and how well it matched. Love. Love, love, love. It's just great. It's just you can't riffle it. You can like, there's literally no give. It doesn't bend. I'm pushing really, really hard. You can drop it like that. But otherwise, you are just going to have to hand over hand or fan and select your cards or something. It does fan beautifully, but I would love this in a different cardstock. But then again, this is held up perfectly well. Even though I have totally creased some of the cards before, I couldn't tell you which ones. They've smoothed out over time. So love the Textured Tarot. Totally safe. Wow, I don't think I'm going to do very well with the decluttering in this basket. We'll see. This is also super, super safe. This is my Playful Heart Tarot by Zara Kitten Chops. I am a mega fan of this deck. This is on absolutely stunning cardstock. These are the extra like oracle cards that are in the deck now. This is actually the second edition. I rehomed my first edition. I loved my first edition, but the second edition has a little addition that I love, which is just, it's silly, but it's these little color hinted borders on the cards so you kind of know which suit you're in, which I love. I think that's a super fun touch. So I really love this. This is on Expert Playing Card cardstock. It's absolutely glorious. If you know the Pagan Otherworlds, same cardstock. But anyways, this deck is such a fantastic inner child deck, and it is really my go-to for inner child work because the emotions are so palpable. It's really wonderful for doing any kind of dialoguing with my inner child or uncovering of stuff, really meeting her where she is. I love this deck for that. So absolutely adore the Playful Heart Tarot, and I love, love, love it. I love Zara's work in general. There's something that she taps into energetically that I think is really special. So yeah, super safe. We're just going to be all safe, I feel like. We'll see. This is another one. This is another one that's safe, but I don't use it a ton. Let's pull this out. So we have the Rainbow Tarot. Now this is coming out mass market, but this was gifted to me and I freaking love this particular copy. I feel like what I need to do, it's not Pippish, but I feel like I think of this deck in a Pippish kind of way. So I think what I need to do is actually hang this deck where I hang my more Pippish decks. It's so fun. It's created by a queer identified creator. It's very colorful, hence the name. It's got a really fun and funky art style, and I absolutely love reading with this deck. It kind of feels a little bit like a Marseille Rider-Waite-Smith hybrid because the majors have a very Marseille feel. Let me see if I can find some. The minors you can see are very Rider-Waite-Smith. Yeah, here's one of the majors. Let's find another. I mean, the borders are gigantic. They're unnecessarily gigantic. They're huge. Oh, we don't need this big blank space on the bottom. That's kind of a bummer. Yeah, but see, it's just kind of got this feel to it. I mean, like, it feels like the whole deck should have been smaller, you know? Like, it should have been just that. And part of me, I mean, the backs are repetitive. I could trim it down. My fear would be that they wouldn't be 100% matched up size-wise. But, yeah, see, look, that's a very Marseille-like Ace of Wands. Plus, there's silver rainbow holographic card edges. So like, oh, I've messed up what I've done here. What am I doing? Being so chaotic. Okay, there we go. It's really colorful. It reads really clean. It reads to me like a Rider-Waite-Smith clone or just a nice classic deck. This would be a great one to take to like a festival if you were doing readings or a coffee shop. It's really fun. It's really fun. So it's safe, but I just wish, I kind of wish that the artwork was either expanded out to sort of fill the space in the boundary, or that it was smaller. Because it'd be such a cute little, like, that looks like it'd be like a perfect size, like a little poker size almost. Maybe a little taller than poker. That'd be so fun. Wouldn't that be fun? Anyways, this is coming out mass market, so we'll have to see what the production looks like when it's mass market, but it's a very fun deck. It reads really well, and yeah, I think I need to hang this where I hang my Pip decks, though. So I'm going to put this to the side and hopefully remember to hang that somewhere else. Here's another one that is super safe, my Game of Thrones Tarot. This is an early printing that had linen cardstock, and it was the very first linen cardstock deck I ever had, and it ruined me for cardstock forever. This is where it all began, folks, right here. I remember when this deck came out, and newer editions don't have this cardstock anymore. But when this first came out and we all heard the shuffle and we heard the whistle for the first time, we were like, what is that? Because it's glorious. The shuffle is so lovely. And then in subsequent printings, the production company that did this, the publisher or whatever, switched out to like a different cardstock and people were gutted. So I will never let this go. This is my precious. It's also the very, like I said, the first linen cardstock I ever felt. And yeah, started my love affair with linen. And this is a high quality linen too. This first printing was just so glorious. But I love the Game of Thrones. I'm probably due for a rewatch at some point. But there's so many layers to this deck because I know the story and the characters. And there were some complaints about this, that it didn't have enough of the characters, that too many of the characters repeated. I don't care. I love that it's set in this world. I love working with this deck. It's such a joy. And I don't use it a ton, but this is one of those decks that I would keep forever, just for the memorabilia. I mean, it kicked off a really special time for me. It kicked off a friendship. It connected me, and it's a part of my tarot history, and I would never want to see it go away. So yeah, I should say my tarot tube history specifically, but you know, this was cool. This is probably, this is probably my second favorite fandom deck, the second most well done fandom deck that I've ever seen. A lot of the fandom decks nowadays just don't do nearly this well of a job. The little guidebook was like hardbound. And it came in this like big box. I have the box somewhere. But this is a stitch-bound little hardback book, like just beautiful. The font's kind of small, but you get references to what was happening in the show. Like, it just does a good job. It just does a good job. We love it. So Game of Thrones is safe for sure. Love it. I should probably like sort it though and have like my fandom decks kind of together. So maybe I'll put this off to the side and see if I can sort it when I hang it back up. Let me see if I can find some other fandom stuff in here. Yes, we can. So we have the Buffy Tarot. And first of all, this fabric match was just perfection. Anyway, this is an Inside Editions. I have to say, I don't know if y'all have heard anything, but Inside Editions swore they would send me a new set when they finally fixed the issues in the guidebook. The guidebook has so many issues, y'all. This is a great Buffy deck. It was really, really, really well done. There's one or two cards I don't really love, but the rest I love. But they messed up the guidebook so bad. There's like a couple spots where like it's literally describing a card that's totally, there's actually more than a couple, where it's describing a card visually that is totally different than the card that's actually in the deck. Like they made changes and didn't update the guidebook or vice versa, or there was a disconnect somewhere. It's a problem. So when these get reprinted, they said they'd send me one, but that's been ages now. I don't know what's gonna happen with that. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is my comfort watch. It's just, I've rewatched the series multiple times. I will always continue to go back and rewatch it. I love it. I have tried to watch all of Angel, even rewatch Angel episodes, and I can get through like the first season and then I'm done. But Buffy, I can watch the whole thing through over and over and over again. I never get sick of it. And I really enjoyed how they tied it together with this deck. I love having a Buffy deck. It just makes me happy. So that's a fandom deck I'm very happy to have and is definitely safe, but I would really like the version with the correct guidebook because otherwise the guidebook's really good. It's just, yeah, the matchup being wrong is a huge, huge issue. Do I have any other fandoms in here? I don't think so. We'll just keep going through. So next up is my first indie deck purchase. Actually, this was my first crowd-funded purchase. This is the Crystal Unicorn Tarot by Pamela Chen. This is illustrated by Lisa Higuchi, and this was funded on Indiegogo, which we don't see a ton. Tarot decks still fund over there, but it's not the same. I don't know that this deck is actually still available or in print. I don't know. Usually what I see when I look it up now are counterfeits, which is a darn shame, because Pamela did such a beautiful job with this deck. It's very, very sweet. It's got a kind of a, it's like all the girly, fun, pastel unicorn vibes. The reason I don't use this deck very much is because it's a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. It's the Rider-Waite-Smith, but with unicorns, and that's fine. It's super adorable. It's pretty. The card stock is lovely. This was the first deck I'd ever had that was like this indie quality of like matte lamination, so it's kind of got that buttery, slightly clumpy, but it does soften over time finish that I just love the feel of. And it's so cute. Plus there's like a My Little Pony-esque sort of reference on the bums of the unicorns. They have like a crystal on their bum, which is super cute. Thus, Crystal Unicorn Tarot, right? It's really fun. It's just a fun themed Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and I do love it. Totally enchanted me. Was so excited when it first came out because the other Unicorn Tarot at the time that had been on the market is really outdated. I have it somewhere. I don't know if it's in this pile or not. But this one just, I don't know, it was just all the pastel-y, girly unicorn vibes that I wanted, and I love it. So yeah, this is definitely safe. I don't remember what I thought of the guidebook. I don't remember the guidebook being something that like, yeah, it's pretty simple. It's just like a little paragraph or whatever, but it's so cute. It's just a cute deck. And it's not the kind of deck you really need an extensive guidebook for, so we're good. So this lives in my I Believe in Unicorns bag, which, you know, so fun. Super safe. This one, though, I go back and forth. It's out of print now. This is the Teddy Bear Tarot. I think it was actually called the Wandering Teddy Bear Tarot. I love the illustration style. I have beef with the Ten of Swords, but I had this in Purgatory for a while and I missed it and I pulled it back out. So I think it does need to stay out. But I think my Inner Child Tarot decks just kind of need to live sort of together, and that might help a bit. So I'm going to try to create like an Inner Child sort of pile over here. But it's really cute. It's, again, another Rider-Waite-Smith clone. But it's all teddy bears, and it's so stinking cute. Like, it's exactly what you would want from a Teddy Bear Tarot, with just the one card exception, which is the Ten of Swords. I hate the Ten of Swords so much because they're sweet little teddy bears, and it's so kid-friendly, and then you get this. Like, this is going to traumatize somebody, probably me. So what happens is I don't end up reaching for this when I'm in an inner child space. I literally think it's because of this card. Like, I absolutely love every other card in this deck. And like I said, it's like, look at the strength card. It's out of print now, I believe. I got it from Tevada.com at the time that I picked it up. It's like, I fell in love with it immediately, but that damn Ten of Swords just, it gets me. Look at this death card. I love this Nine of Cups too. Come on. Like, I do. I love it. It's so cozy. But that Ten of Swords freaking ruins the vibe. Like, this is fine. We got a little sadness. We got a little ouchie. There's still blood. It would be nicer if it was just like a Band-Aid or something. But, like, I mean, it's just, it's the blood. I don't blood doesn't bother me in any other deck at all. But in this one, it absolutely does. And like, I'm looking at it again now and I'm like, I pulled it back out because I missed it, but did I use it? No. So I think I'm in the same boat, and I think this might need to go back into purgatory. It's so stinking cute, but I get so mad every time I see that Ten of Swords. Because it just pulls me out of this world. It's the unfortunate reality of a card that can just kind of mess up the deck for me. So even though I miss it for its own sake, I don't... Yeah, that Ten of Swords messes me up. So I'm going to put that in my... I got stuff in the way. I'm going to put that in my purgatory pile again, and we'll see where I end up. Okay, next up, do we have more cuteness? Yes, we do. The Pastel Unicorn Tarot. Do you see a vibe? I see a vibe. Here's the thing. I really like this, but I never use it. This is another Tevada purchase, I think, too. It's real cute. I think this is one of those decks, though, that this and the Crystal Unicorn, like, I mean... It's so stinking cute. It's got playing card suit references instead of tarot set references, but like clubs as wands. I think part of my problem, though, is as adorable as this is, it kind of turns into a bit of, I don't know, like there's too much going on the cards almost. It's hard to focus. There's a lot of food, which is fine, but like this is the Queen of Wands, but there's not a lot. I mean, like all the Queen of Wands symbology is here. So I don't know what my problem is. I think I forget I have this. In all honesty, I don't think of it. It doesn't really exist in my mind. It's like I forget, which is not a good sign and might mean that I should purgatory it. But it's so damn cute. Like, look how cute it is. I do kind of love it. Like, this doesn't even feel like the Three of Wands to me. I think I just like it because it's got cute unicorns on it. But, like, it doesn't give the vibe of the card, really. Like, the symbols are there, but it's mostly just really cute drawings. Like, it does make sense. Okay, I'm not trying to say that the creator didn't put the right stuff in. They absolutely did. Like, it's there if you look for it. It's 100% there. But something about how my eyes just go to the unicorn and I, like, miss everything else in the image. There's something that happens to me with these images. The color tones, the pastel. I think I need to... I don't think I want to rehome this, but I think I'm going to put this in storage. I don't think I want to even purgatory it because I don't think I'd want to let it go. It's like something that's fun for me to collect. I love having all the unicorn decks for sure. So I like having it. I just don't think I want to use it. So I think I'm going to put this in storage. So that is the Pastel Unicorn Tarot. So yeah, that's going to go into a storage pile. So we have a storage pile and a purgatory pile started. Okay, next up, this is the Witch's Wisdom Tarot. I really love this deck. I love the guidebook. It's very nature-based. The cardstock's kind of terrible. And we were all really excited for a long time because there was talk of a mini coming out. What they've done is the original deck was in a deluxe set, and it was this set of cards. It had its own bag. I'm using a different bag, but it had its own bag. And then the guidebook is like a nice big book written by Phyllis Curott. Phyllis Curott is a piece of my own witchy history and my witchy story. So I'm obsessed with this deck for that reason. Now, it does really mess with the Major Arcana. It takes the Major Arcana backwards. So you go from the World at card 1 backwards, with the Fool being the final card. It feels like a deck that makes sense for people who are later in life, who are looking back on life and processing a lot of things versus being really young and kind of starting out. So it feels like it meets me in sort of my cronish years. That's what it feels like it meets. It kind of fills that gap, but I love that. Like, I just love it. So it is one that I work with the guidebook. It's not one that I think I would whip out and just like pull cards and like not use the guidebook. But honestly, when I'm reading for myself, I love referencing guidebooks. I love it. I love the wisdom. I love the messages. I love the bibliomancy of it all. Anyways, I love this deck and it's safe. But anyways, to get back to my point, when the mini, or what we thought of was the mini, had come out, all it really was this deck has now been pared down. So it's this deck and like a deck-sized little guidebook or pamphlet or something inside. It is no longer the big set with the bigger book. But as far as I know, the cards themselves are the same size and the same cardstock, to the best of my knowledge. But if you have other intel, please let us know in the comments down below. So I've realized I kind of have a couple piles started. I have like a witchy pile. I have like my Pipish sort of section. I have my fandom section, and I have my like inner child section. So I feel like there was originally some sorting going on my racks, and it's just been lost over time. Okay, let's talk about the Heavenly Blooms. So I got this because it's pretty. And it is pretty. And for a little bit, for like a couple of weeks, it was sort of my Baldur's Gate deck. But it's not sticking. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. But there's something about this world that feels out of reach to me. It's so vibrant. I love how glossy it is. I love the pink edges. I love the shape. It's like this tall, narrow shape. But I just cannot seem to get excited about working with this deck. And I'm gutted because it's so vibrant in color. It's so beautiful. And it's got the most incredible masculine female representation that I've probably ever seen, which is one of the reasons why I keep coming back to it. But I don't read with it. I just look at it and go, ooh, that's pretty. And then I move on. There it is. I love that. I love the vibes of all of this. I love this. And there's, I think, one other character in here that also has that masculine female look to them. But like, that's it. That's why I love it. That's why I love it. And it definitely gives me like fae vibes, sort of high elf vibes. But man, I don't know. I think this one's going to Purgatory. I think it's going to Purgatory. We'll see though. But right now, I think that's where it's headed. Okay, let's talk about a couple of my Celtic decks. So we have the Druidcraft Tarot. I have multiple copies of this because I have my copy that I used for tarot with training wheels that I have the keywords on. Actually, this may have been that copy. Yep, this was that copy. I used alcohol to clean off the keywords because I can see some hints of them down at the borders. You can see some discoloration. So this was my tarot with training wheels, but I cleaned off the keywords. This is my bordered version. I have somewhere a borderless version that I trimmed down. This is just a classic again. I don't read with it very often anymore, if ever. It is one of, though, my fewest... I have a few decks that really have a strong sort of masculine bent to them. They feel more... maybe not even masculine. They just feel more balanced, and this is one of them. I feel like there's a lot more boys in this deck than I get in my other decks. And I like that. I like having that available. I like the energy of it. It feels different. And the guidebook for this is absolutely incredible. So this is safe. I think I need to make a little bit of a Celtic-y pile. For sure. Yeah, it just feels very masculine, this deck. To me, that's the vibe. But it's very woodsy. It's very druidy. Obviously, that is the premise, right? Really cool. So, love this deck. There's different versions of this. There's like a big version with the big guidebook, and then there's like smaller versions where you get the cards in like a smaller, like deck-sized kind of guidebook. But the big guidebook is well worth it. So I'll put that in a little Celtic pile, I guess. Okay, and then the other one I have here that is kind of Celtic-y is the Wildwood. So I had this, rehomed it because the version I had terrible cardstock. I actually really like this thicker, glossy cardstock version. I don't know what it's like now. This is by the same artist that did the Druidcraft. So the Druidcraft and this were both illustrated by Will Worthington. And I love the vibe. I love the vibe. This has got a lot more of a wild feel compared to Druidcraft. It's a little bit more tribal, like Celtic tribal. That's kind of the vibe. Whereas the Druidcraft feels a little bit more societal, like a little bit more civilized in some ways, more refined. This feels a little bit closer to the natural world, a little more primitive, maybe is the word I'm looking for. But it definitely has its own system, and that can be challenging. I really do enjoy reading with it. And it's a special deck, again, not one I'm sure I'd want to let go, but not one I necessarily read with a ton. Love the World Tree so much. It's a whole mood, this deck. And the court cards are animals. Love the Great Bear for Judgment a lot, actually. And there are keywords on the cards, too, which can be great because the system is different. I wish the keywords extended to the courts because the courts are animals, and it would make it easier. But they do name the animals, so there's that. So that is the Wildwood Tarot, and I do really enjoy it. So I keep this typically hung near the Druidcraft, so I'm going to continue with that. I'm not doing very good at paring the section down, which is a darn shame because this rack was very overloaded. So... okay, here's my other unicorn deck. And I do think I think the time has come for me to put this into Purgatory. Here's my issue. This is a classic. I forget it's been around forever. I can't remember the name of the creator. It's a very dated art style, and the unicorns are like, oh no, see, here's the thing with this one. Okay, the unicorns at first, when I first saw this, I was like, oh, the unicorns are just slapped onto like a Rider-Waite-Smith card, like themed kind of card, which is sort of true. But what I've noticed about this deck is it feels like the unicorn is acting as a guide. So what happens is when I want to work with unicorns in a guide energy, this deck does the trick, because it's like every scene, like look at this with the Nine of Swords, like she's anxious, but the unicorn is there offering comfort. The unicorn's dancing with her in the world. The unicorn's got the head in the lap of the queen, is out there helping the Page of Wands to discover stuff. I mean, like, is right there helping with decisions. I mean, I just feels like is offering healing here with the Five of Cups. So it feels like the unicorn's standing in as like a spirit guide in this deck, which is what makes it unique. And also makes it very personal. I feel like I need like a section in my racks for decks that are really just for me, because that's how I use this. I use this specifically for guide readings. So I can't purgatory it. I can't store it. I need it available. But I think it needs to live. It just needs to live somewhere else, I think. Because whereas my deck, oh, by the way, did you know I have a deck? Let's talk about it for a second. Whereas my deck feels like I am the unicorn in that deck, like the unicorn represents me in my journey. Here, the unicorn is outside of self and stands in as a guide. So let me show you my deck since we're here and we're talking about it. Hey, did you know? Did you know? I'm going to interrupt my own video with my plug. I have a deck currently funding on Kickstarter, and it's called the Unicorn's Journey Tarot. I don't know if when you're seeing this video, it's the Kickstarter's over or still going. Don't know. But if you missed it, there will be an opportunity to pre-order the deck through my pledge manager. So keep an eye out on the campaign. There should be a notification button if the campaign is over. But we funded this deck we hit our funding goal in like less than 3 minutes. This is Unicorn's Journey Tarot. If you don't know, hi. If you didn't know, I created a tarot deck. The illustrations are by the artist and illustrator Francesca Paocchi, who has been a delight to work with. She took my descriptions of every card and just brought them to life, and it made me so happy. It was just such a beautiful process. So I love this deck. It's on beautiful linen cardstock. It's going to be in a magnetic wraparound box. It has a fully fleshed out, quite chunky little guidebook that has a lot of writing for every single card and has color-coded page edges. This is just a sample print, so is this, but it is coming. It is happening. I'm so happy. So at the time I'm filming this video, we have hit all but 2 of the stretch goals, I believe. So lots of things are happening. Check out the campaign. It will be linked down below. I guess the thing I was getting at with that, though, is that they have very different feels. Like this feels like external energy, whereas Unicorn's Journey feels like internal energy. But I do think I need to put this somewhere else. I know where it needs to go. It needs to go by my bed, where I do my nightly draws, so that I can pull a guide card for myself before bed sometimes. So I'm going to put it over there and not hang it back on the rack just willy-nilly with everything else. All right, next up is a tried and true. I love this deck. It's wonderful for shadow work readings, and that is the Deviant Moon Borderless Tarot. I heard they're coming out with a Borderless Mini, which has me very excited because I love working with this deck. I have to be in the right space and mood to work with it, but I love it. It's a wonderful deck, and it's great for helping me look into shadow, look into dysfunction, look into toxicity. Really, really, really good for that. So I think this is actually going to live... I think I'm going to do some rearranging. I think this is going to go on the rack and the Moonchild with my other sort of more shadow worky deck so that they're kind of grouped together. That's my plan, but that is safe. And then we have a sweet little Forest of Enchantment Tarot. This is a storybook deck, storybook quality deck. It's Llewellyn Mass Market. Love this too. Love the illustrations. I love the whole vibe of this deck. What's great about this is that it's fairy tale-esque. There are little nods to different fairy tales throughout this deck, but it's not fairy tale specific. So you don't need to, like the concept of the Wishing Well and the Nine of Visions, you don't need to know all of your fairy tales to enjoy working with this deck exactly as it is. The illustration style is breathtaking. I absolutely love the storybook quality of the art. It was this artwork that kind of inspired me to seek out an illustration style that had a storybook feel for my own deck, because I wanted that kind of ageless feeling of looking at illustrations in a storybook being sort of the premise of the artwork for my own deck, because I love it. I love how it feels. Again, timeless. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love the Forest of Enchantment. So safe. I don't know that it's in entirely the right spot on my rack, but I can rearrange later. This is such a great deck, and I really love the bag match. This is the, look, it's the mirror shine. This is the Holy Spectrum Tarot, the Infinity Edition, and it reads really well. The mirrors are really something else. This whole box situation, this whole metallic silver, what a mood. What a mood. But anyway, this is a really great deck. It's fun to read with. It's modern feeling, kind of dystopian in its way. I love all the bold colors. I love the vibrancy. I love the gloss. The cardstock, it's got kind of a bow this direction, like this way, which annoys me a little, but it's not the end of the world, and it does shuffle nicely. It does read incredibly well. I found it very intuitive to work with. I think this would be a good one to pull out for a favorites on my favorites rack, but my favorites rack's a little full right now, so maybe not. But what I need to do is find a good Oracle deck to sort of pair with this, but it doesn't really need it. So I don't know. I really love it. I love all the color. Have I mentioned I love the color? There's something really cool about it. The mirrored backs are kind of intimidating, to be honest. Oh, this doesn't, I forgot, this is effortful to shuffle. It's a little bit stiff because you have to fight against this weird bend to shuffle if you want to bridge riffle. Or riffle bridge, rather. I feel like I almost need to, like, break it in more, shuffle more. But it's a good deck. It's safe. It's got some issues. But I feel like to have the whole experience, it has to be stored face down. Look, there's my camera. Hi! So fun. Anyways, it's in a mirrory bag, too. How perfect is that? And lastly for this basket, this is the Candle in the Cave Tarot. I don't know. I glitched when I got this. I haven't worked with it or been drawn to work with it at all, but it's really pretty. I think that's my issue. I have the guidebook in with it, which I don't usually do. I'm not sure why I did it that way. Normally I keep the guidebook separate. Okay, this is my issue with the guidebook though. Just to pick on it a little bit. The font size is so small for these giant pages. Like, I would much rather have had less of these little illustrations and a larger font size, like a smaller title, larger font size. But see, here's where you can tell they wouldn't have had room. Or maybe just more pages. I don't know. It's not a very easy, and the font is really hard to read. I don't know. Okay, it's pretty though. That's the thing. It's really pretty. But like, I have not once been called to pick it up and work with it since I got it, even though it's absolutely beautiful. It's got all of the nice winter cozy vibes. It's dark. It's folk arty. It's really pretty. It's really pretty. But it's pretty. I don't think it's one where I need the guidebook. I think I might need to purgatory this. I feel bad though because it's kind of new, but it was a bit of an impulse purchase. I knew that. I am just not really drawn to reach for it at all. And why do I have the guidebook with it? I think because I felt like I needed that to get more out of it, but then the guidebook's hard to read. It's like a whole thing. So I don't know. I think this one might be out of print right now. I don't know what the story is on it, but I will have a link down below so you can check it out. But yeah, the guidebook's very difficult for my eyes to read. Like, it's very difficult. I think it's kind of funny. I really believe font makes such a big difference when you're printing in small. It really makes such a huge difference. But it's a really pretty, well-produced guidebook. It's just, it needs some updates to be more readable. But yeah, I think this is going to purgatory. All right, let's do a quick little recap of what's kind of going, sort of, because I didn't do a whole lot of decluttering, but the Pastel Unicorn Tarot is going to go into storage. I'm not going to get rid of it, but I'm going to go put it on a shelf where it's not hanging because I'm not really reading with it. Candle in the Cave, I think, is purgatory. Heavenly Blooms, I'm torn between storage and purgatory. For now, I think it's going to go purgatory. And unfortunately, the Wandering Teddy Bear, I gotta bring these back into the view. The Wandering Teddy Bear Tarot is also going to go into purgatory because I just keep hitting that stopping point. And I missed it and I bring it back and then I hit the stopping point and then I'm upset with it again. So these three are gonna go into my purgatory stash. And this one is going to go into storage. I've decided I'm going to move the Rainbow Tarot to my pip shelf along with, or the part of my rack where I put my pip decks, along with the Sexy Times Intimate Intuition Erotic Tarot. These two are going to go with pips. Then I have my Forest of Enchantment, which is kind of out of place on the rack that it's on now, but whatever. Then I have some sort of shadowy decks with the Deviant Moon and the Moonchild. I have a couple of Inner Child decks with the Playful Heart Tarot and the Crystal Unicorn. I have a couple of more modern E decks with my Textured Tarot and Holy Spectrum. A couple of Celtic E decks with my Druidcraft and Wildwood. And then I have a couple of fandom decks with my Buffy and Game of Thrones. And then I have some witchy decks with my Everyday Witch Tarot and Oracle and my Witch's Wisdom Tarot. So I am going to put these away and wrap this up. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you for hanging out with me while I do this series. It's really a lot of fun. I am going to probably pull out another rack and film another one of these right now. So like, who knows when these will be up. But thank you for watching. Thank you for keeping an eye out. Don't forget to check out Unicorn's Journey Tarot. I'm so proud of that project. Can't wait to see it out in people's hands for real, for real. Thank you so much. And until next time, may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye, y'all.